Town Band Banter with Doc and Dave. Every week, two longtime friends and colleagues in the world of music, David Price and Donald Doc Smith, get together to discuss the triumphs as well as the twists and turns of lifelong learning for the dedicated members of thousands of civilian community music ensembles of every shape and size. Your comments and suggestions are always welcomed through email as info@townbandbanter.com, Facebook, Town Band Banter, and Instagram, #TownBandBanter. And now for our hosts, Doc and Dave.
Okay, Dave, you ready?
I'm
Here
trying.
we go. All right.
Yeah.
Here we are with season 3, episode number 2, here in fabulous Newport, Rhode Island.
Newport, Rhode Island is
Right.
famous
It's sunny
for
Newport, Rhode
something.
Island.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was the plan for a sunny.
Yep.
It's a lovely fall day in Newport. We're here in Turo Park with Dr. Mark Stickney, an old friend. All of us had met early on, right around 2000,
Somewhere
around there.
Yeah, I met you, but promptly forgot. You know what I mean?
It was
Yeah.
quick. I'm very easily forgettable.
And I'm
It's all
sure
right.
he forgot you.
Yeah, I know that's true.
That's for sure. So we met then, and Mark was very helpful to me with the marching band, the athletic bands down at the URI, and then I left in the middle of that. I took another job and left into secondary for a lot more money, oddly enough. And it was also going to be the school that my boys were going to be going to.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I got to do my boys right through their whole high school because I ended up in the high school. I moved to the middle school for the college.
Oh, nice.
And then went right through high school, and it was wonderful. My office was their locker. I don't think they knew where their lockers were, but it was okay, and it was a wonderful opportunity. But I was glad to meet you, and then I thought, I'm done with you, and then I went up to this, I heard about this great conference that was up at Plymouth State that you were running
Was
at
that
that
the
point.
summer one, right?
At the summer conference,
New England,
right?
New England Band Directors
That you took
Institute.
over from the guy who was still there, the director of bands.
Gary
was,
Corcoran,
Gary
yeah.
Corcoran was still there. I love Gary Corcoran. I was in the New England College Band Directors Association.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you did that too, but it was a great club, and I got to know Gary very well then, and I really admire him. And he got that going. Mark took it to a whole new level, and had fantastic folks there for dirt cheap.
It was a lot of fun.
It was an amazing festival, and I look forward to. I think I got up to it 3 or 4 times, and it did it better every time because you get to know the area. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful area up there.
that's for sure. And then thinking that's about it, and he ends up back here in Newport,
Yep.
doing all of that. But it was interesting how our careers kept, like intersecting somewhere along the way,
Yes.
as it does in this field.
Yes. Yes.
And that's great. But why don't you give us a little background? We're here primarily because of historical music of
Historic
Newport.
music of Newport.
Historic.
It's a mouthful.
It's such a difficult thing. It is not difficult to do. It's branded well. I'm just not too coherent.
That's right.
It happens.
That's for sure. But maybe you could tell us maybe the story of that, and certainly how it relates to. We're doing mostly community instrumental ensembles, but I think it parallels that very well throughout history.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you both for having me on here. And I know I promised a sunny day, but it's not. It's a little windy.
Forgive me.
I'm not going to hold it against you. That's all right. We're fine.
So I grew up here in Portsmouth, not in Newport. I'm not a native Newporter. I have to be very careful about that because I was not born here. But and I actually was born in Virginia, so I wasn't even born in Rhode Island. But I grew up in Portsmouth, graduated from Portsmouth High School. But during that time, I got a job with the Newport Music Festival on their production crew,
Right.
helping them set up stages in the mansions and do their concerts. I went on to lead their production crew, and I worked for them for about exactly 29 years.
Whoa.
And I got to thinking, what really happened here? What was the music that happened in these houses? When you think Newport and music, you think of 2 things. What do you think they are? What are the 2 things you think of the most?
The mansions, the Vanderbilts, and all of that.
The Jazz
summer.
Festival and the Folk Festival.
That's
Right,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jazz
those
and folk,
festivals.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Which I love. I go to the Folk Festival every year I can.
Yeah.
But there's more to our history, and that's only recent history. So I started kind of looking into it, finding some music. I focused in the 1850s, and this is why I was teaching full-time in Utah and also up in New Hampshire where I taught last. And it just got to the point where I kept finding more music and more stories and more people. So sometime around 2018, it started to really ramp up, and I moved back down here not long after that. But then it really started to get going when a friend of mine basically dared me to do a GoFundMe. I was like, nobody cares about this stuff. It's fun. I got 4 likes on something on Facebook that I post on my page. And it's like, nobody.
They're much more dangerous GoFundMe challenges
That is
than
true.
that. So that was a wise choice.
She convinced me to do it, and we raised a couple $1,000s.
Wow.
So I used that money in 2022 to found an official nonprofit, incorporated with a board and everything, so that we could actually work to not just tell stories, but actually preserve the music and find the music history. So to date, going back even before then, we have over 1,000 pieces of music that have Newport connections.
Wow.
Some written about the tower right behind us. We have, here comes the wind. We have over the names of roughly about 1,000 musicians who served here. Mostly band musicians. Fort Adams had a huge band. Newport was an army town. We never think about that.
Was an
but
army town.
Newport, up until the late 1800s, was more of an army town than a navy town.
But the first Naval Academy is
Yes.
like right there, right? Is
Yes.
this, yeah.
And there was a naval training station here, and there were bands here in the 1880s, 1870s, 1880s. And they had a music school, actually, at the naval training station here, too. But the fort was fully occupied by artillery regiments. And if there was an artillery regiment, there was a regimental band. And those bands were some of the best musicians in the world. And they performed for the Vanderbilts. They performed all over Newport, the region. They were professional bands.
But on their own or as part of their duties? Like, yeah, a little bit
We
about
actually have a story that I'm aching to tell. I just have to get the time to do it, where at the casino, when the casino was first founded, the Navy band underbid to get the contract to play there for the year because they didn't need the money. They were already paid by the government. So the local band threw a fit, and it went back and forth to the newspaper, and the Secretary of the Navy had to get involved. And this happened in the 1880s twice. And eventually, neither band got hired. They brought someone else in who stayed here for 20 years.
I would think the other band, besides the money, would be pretty much outgunned, you know.
No, there were some, yeah, that's true. There were some. Newport had some incredible semi-professional and full professional bands. The Newport Military Band, the Newport Municipal Band,
Okay.
up into the 20th century.
Tell me about the Newport, let's go all the way back to the Newport Municipal Band. Was that like a professional band, or was it like obviously military bands were staying, we touched on those. We did Lou Buckley, Captain
Yep,
Lou Buckley,
I watched that.
and that was a great episode.
Was.
But he's doing the community bands now down in the villages.
Mm-hmm.
And he also did the band up in, what was the name of it? Up in Boston. Fantastic band up there. They host the festival every year.
Metropolitan
The
Winds.
Metropolitan Winds. So that's a community band. So he's now fully into the community band
Yeah.
thing. And he did guest conducting, but that was mostly school things. So we're staying away from those for right now, but you can't help but touch on them because we're all related.
Yeah,
We're all
oh, yeah.
doing the same
Yeah.
things. So was this a professional band?
They were.
Yeah.
Some of them in the city directories and census would be listed as musicians as their occupation. They brought in conductors from all over the country to conduct these. And I just did a tour at one of the cemeteries, and that conductor they brought down here from Maine. That was a Navy band. The first real Navy bands here outside of the Academy band. This was late 1870s, early 1880s. But he was first drawn here by one of the professional bands. It was called the Redwood Band, which is not associated with Redwood Library right over there.
That's where I was going. Yeah.
It was most likely just a name, because there was also Redwood Lodge of the Odd Fellows. Redwood was a Newport thing, but he also conducted an orchestra with his name, so he had an orchestra and a band. But then the Navy took him and hired him away to be their full-time band director. But he also professionally conducted a band, the 3rd Regiment Band of Fall River, Massachusetts. So these were all
I've heard of
professional.
that,
These
yeah.
were all professional bands, and they made a living. Some of them ended up doing other things after. Sometimes they worked other jobs at the same time.
Right.
But they were paid to perform, and they performed a lot.
That's what happens in those bands. Yes, that's for
Right,
sure.
yeah.
I remember Sousa's touring schedule was ridiculous. Like he toured all over the place, and there were plenty of places to play, and they would get huge crowds. So why not?
He came here 3 times, I believe. I did a story on one of the times he came here.
Right.
But he did 3 different tours that stopped at the Opera House down in Washington Square.
Of course, yeah. And he wrote 250 marches because a lot of times he'd visit somewhere and it'd be for a special event, so he'd write a march for
Yep.
that event. Are there any marches that you're aware of that he wrote for here?
Sousa did not. I have a band director, Fort Adams band director, whose descendant sent me correspondence between him, his name was Richard Donovan, and Sousa about a piece that either he wrote or arranged of Sousa's. It's called Reverie. No one knows what the music is. The Sousa Library, it's the University of Illinois Sousa Library. They were like,
wow.
"Ooh, this is cool."
Yeah.
That no one knows what, it could have been this piece, it could have been that piece. His family was trying to find the music. it might be out there. Who knows? But so I don't think Sousa necessarily wrote anything for here, but we don't know.
What is the Sousa Library doing in Illinois?
Why?
I don't know.
That's
Does it
a
just start a
good question.
controversy?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's at the University of Illinois. I
Because
think.
there's a little connection. I don't know if I ever brought this up for you, Dave, but I got a call, answered the phone, and it was our maid of honor from our wedding. And she said, answered. They said, "Oh, hi, I'll go get Lisa." And she goes, "No, I wanted to talk to you." What a shock. And she said, "I have this guy who's just asked me to marry him." And his last, have you ever heard of John Philip Sousa? And I thought it was a joke, but she was serious.
Number 4?
And I said, of course I have. I said, and she said, he's the guy who asked me to marry him. I said, but there are a lot of Sousa. She goes, no, I've been in his basement. This is the fourth. This is the last in the lineage. And he has asked me to marry. So then I said, say yes, so I could meet him. I don't know whether it was a good match or not, but I didn't care. I wanted to meet the guy. And it turned out she said no. And he loved her so much, she actually flew her out to the wedding in California. He was based in California.
Okay.
That's why I asked about Illinois, because
It's at the university. Most likely someone gave a gift or something. Now I was 100% sure it's at Illinois. Now I'm about 95% sure. I'm pretty sure it's the University of Illinois. They're a good resource for community band. They're a really good resource of music and all sorts of things.
But you're probably right. There's probably some researcher and who was close enough to, and where would he store it all? He had some stuff in a basement that the Smithsonian's waiting for.
Exactly.
Was how he posed it. I asked her what it was, but she wasn't really sure, so I didn't go any further.
One of the things I think might be fun, and I'm sure you get it all the time in your business, what you're doing, is that some of the individual characters
Oh, yes.
that have appeared throughout, these quirky people that is, for example, I'll just give you a quick little run, I'm sure. Are you familiar with a guy from Rhode Island named Bowen R. Church?
No, I'm not.
Oh my gosh.
When was he?
Bowen R. Church, probably probably late 1800s.
Okay.
And he was a very gifted trumpet cornetist from Rhode Island.
Oh.
And he went all over the world. He was quite famous. And there's a lot of wonderful stories. And one is that, unfortunately, he had an alcohol problem.
Not surprising.
And the story goes that he was returning, and this is just a story, this is all I know from it, but returning from somewhere, he was on a ship, and people were waving at him, and he had a silver trumpet or something like that someone in royalty had given to him. And of course he dropped it. It went into the bay. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. But that's one.
Now I need to take that name and see what he's done here.
Bowen R. Church.
I'm sure he played in Newport.
Yeah, if you go to Roger Williams Park, and they had it outside for many years, but then they put it in where the carousel is. There's a picture of a guy with a horn.
And that's him. Huh.
That's Bowen R. Church. Yeah.
I'll have to look. I'm sure he did. Newport has always been a hub of musical performance. It's gone through different phases of their popularity. Pre-Civil War, and I actually never knew this until probably college or later. Pre-Civil War, all the people who came here were Southerners to get away from the mosquitoes and the humidity down there. And of course that ended in 1861 because none of them wanted to come back that summer.
Right,
because they were busy. And then had to go through a whole, but when we started it was the 1850s. And yes, the stories are, there are, most of them are good stories, but there are also some like really tragic stories.
Oh, yeah.
Musicians. But we have Army musicians, Navy musicians. There's a cemetery here at Fort Adams with at least a dozen or more musicians buried in there, including two bandmasters, two band leaders of Fort Adams.
Yeah.
They're buried there, but there's also something like 80 children buried in that cemetery, including children of musicians. Right. So there are some really cool, and they're all really good stories and interesting stories.
Yeah.
90% of them are good, but there are also some that are just like, it's still important.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of tragedy. A lot of blind musicians in Newport.
Yeah.
Staggering amount of blind musicians came through Newport, were born here, and just went to Boston to study at a school that still exists, the Perkins Institute.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
And they would come back and they would teach, and then they would teach a younger blind student who'd go up. And it's just this rotation of people coming back and forth. And I find more and more.
Isn't that
every day.
interesting? Yeah. Oh.
Fascinating. So I knew we were going to come up with a pile of things like this.
I could go on all day.
Go on.
We have 30 minutes.
Go
so,
on.
no, but please do. But what about? I guess I said we avoid schools, but were the performances, they weren't just for the Vanderbilts because it was military.
Yeah.
It was for the public, too.
Yes.
So the public was influenced by that, and they were hearing some of the finest musicians in the world, and that was impacting students. So how many of the musicians, you said they come from all over the world, but some of them came from here.
Oh, definitely. There were some who grew up in Newport, some from around the country. There were actually a lot who were born in Newport.
Wow.
And talking about playing for the community, the reason why I picked this spot here is there used to be a bandstand somewhere over in that area, I think where the flagpole is. There was a bandstand here,
Right.
which eventually was condemned, which couldn't fit anything more than like a brass quintet at this point.
Right.
Right, that's the problem.
but
They have a lot of them.
They had concerts here all summer. Going back, the Naval Academy band used to walk across the street from the Naval Academy when it was here and perform. And I have mentions of them playing in Toro Park. So there's been live band concerts for the community here in this park since the 1860s. And also at Fort Adams, they would invite the entire town out. At the Fort Adams band and their bandstand, they had one too. They would play a concert, and they do like drills and shoot off guns. And people of all societal levels would go out there and enjoy the day.
So it makes you wonder how George Wein came up with the idea for the Jazz Fest.
Yeah. Well, and then
Which is like brilliant. He invented that form of entertainment, like in a professional sense, but he probably saw that happening and saying,
well, people are shocked. It's like Fort Adams went the way of, I don't know what happened. In World War II, post-World War II, it was just abandoned and just left there.
wow, yeah.
No one wanted it. I think the Navy at one point bought it off the Army, and then they were like, "Ew."
Maybe that's why it's in pretty good shape, because it was just let
yeah.
go.
It's incredible now. They have a foundation that has, if you
Yeah.
have not toured Fort Adams,
I have, yes.
you go in these tunnels. If you're tall like me, it's annoying.
Yeah, right.
And if you're claustrophobic, don't do it. Because we
Right.
had one person on our tour who took 3 steps down the stairs, was like, I'm out, and
Yeah.
left, because there's no light except for your flashlights.
Right,
And
yeah.
Right,
and
right.
there's this tunnel, but I would recommend that. And they do events there all year. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I played events there, like professional events as well. But of course, the Jazz Fest and the Folk Fest, and oddly enough, now they've renamed the festival that you were with, and it's Newport Classical, now,
Newport
right?
Classical, yes.
Which makes perfect sense because everyone knows the other two.
Yeah.
So then just designated as class. It was brilliant branding.
Oh yeah, we used to have people come by in Hawaiian shirt and sandals, like, I'm here for tickets. We're like, which festival?
Right.
Folk, like that down the street. Because the offices at one point were both on Aquidneck Avenue in Middletown, within half a mile of each other on the same side of the road. So
Right.
we would people going into different, yeah. I don't think you want a classical music ticket. Maybe, no judging.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they're sold out and we're not. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
take their
you should
money no
come.
matter what.
But
Exactly.
I didn't get to enough of I haven't been to enough of the classical.
I haven't left there 2017, I think, 2017-ish. And I haven't been back to a concert yet, mostly because it was just such a huge part of my life. I don't want to just sit there. And I grew up in that festival. My parents worked with Mark Malkovich Sr. I used to hang out in the office when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And they would drag me to concerts when I was like, no little kid wants to go sit through a 2-hour classical music concert. And they would
Right.
make me.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was my family and all. You know, it's very different. It's very successful now, and it's very different. And I think part of me wants to hold on to what it was. So I'm like, the last director who just left was trying to talk me into coming back. And I was like, eventually, and I still haven't gone yet.
Right.
One of these days.
No, but that makes perfect sense. Keep them separated. But it's running strong. All 3 festivals
Yeah.
are running very strong, which is fabulous.
Yes.
That's great to know. But until this moment, I didn't realize. I thought it kind of started in 1969 or whenever the first jazz festival was.
They were
or it was 59,
originally,
1959.
yeah, they were originally at Festival Field, which is
Right,
I
Fort
don't
Adams.
remember when they moved to Fort Adams.
Right.
I'm not quite sure. But even now, the first time I went there was just one stage. Now there's, I think, 4 stages. There's a stage in the fort. There's a couple stages
Right.
outside the fort. There's a beer garden. It's a huge thing now.
No, I know this very well because my sons at the when I became president of
Oh, they
RIMIA,
did the jazz.
we did. I was there for the first one,
That's a
and
great
actually
thing.
announced the band
It's
the
a
first time they
great-
did
a
it.
great thing that they did.
And I think one of the cooler things about that moment was I came backstage and I stood between George Wein, and who was the founder of the Newport Jazz Festival in 1959, and the guy who was funding it, the CEO. And they turned to each other about halfway through the first song and said, "They're good." You know?
They do a lot of philanthropy. They raise a lot of money. They do a lot for not just our community. They do a lot for music around the country, around the world, I think.
But it was that it's risky. It had been the first time they had a bunch of high school kids
Yeah.
kick off a multi-million-dollar festival
Yeah.
with hardcore jazz fans sitting there. The parents were there too.
Yeah.
And then it fed off as it's supposed to be. The jazz fans started responding the same way, saying, "Hey, they're good," and applauding for things. And the kids realized on stage they like us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And started playing better, and it just it went wonderfully for many years. It's still going somehow. I'm not sure they've reconfigured it a little bit,
I think they're still going every year.
but it's still every year, different days. The whole festival has changed. But my sons crew for it. And love to do that. It's not a high-paying job, but they love to do that job. They live for it.
Yeah.
They still make some money doing it.
Yeah,
So back to community bands. You run a community band up in Maine,
I do.
right? So tell us a little bit about that.
It's called the Seacoast Wind Ensemble. It's Kittery, Maine, which is Portsmouth, New Hampshire, right on the seacoast border of there. It's 50, 60 members, all volunteer, and we do concerts all year. We take a little bit of Christmas, New Year's off, and we take the month of August off, but we perform probably more than a dozen concerts each year all over the area, as far as Freiburg, Maine, North Conway area, Kennebunkport, in Kittery itself,
So it's
in
a range.
Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and they play at an incredibly advanced level. It blows my mind how good they are.
Right, because you said the members are, what,
Volunteer,
music
everything,
teachers?
music
and-
teachers, retired music teachers. We have a couple high school students in there. We have people who work at the big, huge naval shipyard in Portsmouth. It's incredible. It's a very diverse group of people, but
How
they
do
are
you-
incredible.
Sorry to interrupt. How do you decide who's in the band, who sits where, who does what chair? How does that work? Because that's one of our big discussions with community groups. How do you go about this business in that band in particular?
For us, it's a matter of we've grown a little bit, and I think we're at the maximum size we want to be. Because let's face it, no wind ensemble now is really a wind ensemble one to a part.
No.
Every wind ensemble is just a smaller band, if not sometimes even a bigger band. But we have a set number of people within each section, give or take. But we're constantly getting emails like, I'd like to play, I'd like to play, I'd like to play. So we invite people if we have a need. If not, we keep their name. We invite them to come sit in for a rehearsal or two next to somebody. And with me and the section leader, mostly I will 99.9%, 100% of the time trust the judgment of my section leaders because they're good
Okay,
people.
so-
They've built good sections, so I trust their judgment.
Sure.
And then they say yes, no, good, yeah, let's keep them. And some people have come thinking it was, oh, we're going to play some Sousa marches really badly, and then they go through rehearsals like,
Yeah, it's a little
right,
different.
like
yeah.
Morton Gold's Symphony and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that kind of, most of the people who come understand whether they're going to, no one who can't hack the music stays, because they understand, they know. But we don't want to grow too much. So there's that kind of back and forth. What if there's a really good player? We'll add that one player. And then also, it's a community group, so, last night we had 15 clarinets, I think. More. It's like shocking how many clarinets showed up. But then so there are times we have 6 clarinets at a concert because they have lives.
Yep,
And
right.
we're not going to have to do this. It's a volunteer organization. So if they have a commitment they have to do, then we understand that. So,
You have to.
yeah.
You
So
have to.
while we
Right.
there are times when we literally have 6 clarinets. It's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Right.
Or 2 percussionists or something. We don't sub. We do get subs every once in a while, but we're at capacity. We have 2 bassoons now. We have 2 oboes and a third oboe / bassoon.
Oh, wow.
English
Jealous.
horn. Wow. Top to bottom, it is an incredible group to play with. It's almost hard because I just need to keep challenging them and finding harder music. And
Right.
then I have to realize it's also a community band, so I don't want to do any of the weird stuff.
Well,
Although I do
you mix
weird
you
music.
mix in other stuff too.
Yeah,
you know?
we do. In the summer, when I first got hired there, we added a fall and spring concert. And those are my chance to give them, like, deep music. Not that all music is deep, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like
know. Some-
classics or new music by composers or
Sure.
something, more meaty music. But then I also we do a huge Memorial Day concert up in Freiburg, Maine. They've done it for years. Sells out. This beautiful auditorium. We have Honor Guard. It's an incredible performance. And we do a mix up there of some. We do the Armed Forces Salute, Guiding Stars and Stripes, all that stuff. We also throw in like a Julie Drew Air Force Symphony, stuff like that in there. And in the summer we do the community stuff. And I mix in some other music, but we do like highlights from Frozen.
Yep.
And when I was the college band director, it was like, yeah, why would you do that? I love doing that stuff now. I still have never seen Frozen. And it's a point of pride at this point in my life. I finally did break down and see Lion King after I got mauled once by band members. And you haven't seen that?
What the
How
heck's
can you
wrong with
conduct
you?
the music? I'm very easily. I know the music. So it's a great ensemble that covers, I think, every aspect of a community band and professional band.
Well, that's why I asked about the mix, because you need some of that in there too for the audience.
Oh, yeah,
If
yeah.
you're going to build an audience, you can't just do Persichetti Symphony, Gould, and then
We just
something
did
atonal and
we
call
just
it a night.
We did a
right.
kids Halloween program just past a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago we did a kids Halloween program. We didn't do Frozen. We did like Disney classics, Incredibles, all
Right.
that stuff, which was a lot of fun. But we also mixed in. We were part of a commissioning project for a suite of Armenian dances, and we mixed in one of those, and the kids loved it. It was different.
Sure.
But then we went right back to the Incredibles, or what, I can't remember what else we did. But it was a fun concert. And the week before that, we did like the whole Armenian suite, plus other like serious deep music, and also. That was by far the weirdest concert, because the first half was primarily Disney music, and the second half was all this like deep I'm like, this is very bizarre, but the audience loved it and the band loved it.
Yeah.
That's what the audience is
Yeah.
expecting to hear when they come
Sure.
to your concert too.
Yeah.
There's some of those expectations, but it's nice to stretch those every
Yeah.
once in a while.
And my philosophy in that, and also in what I do with the nonprofit, we do performances. We have an orchestra that performs. I do a lot of talks. Is not just hear the music, but learn about the background of the music, learn about the composer, learn the story. I read, as a man I respect very deeply, read a blog post you wrote about how conductors shouldn't talk to the audience. I'm like, no, some probably shouldn't. That's a given.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
I can think
And
of a few.
me sometimes also probably shouldn't. But I think what makes the music more meaningful is if there's a story behind it. We're doing this program at Rosecliff next week where it's all songs written by people in Newport. Some of it hasn't been played probably in 130 years. One piece from the Civil War.
Right.
Is it great music? I think it is. I think it's, but the story behind it is written by a former mayor who lived in a mansion, who was huge in the Civil War. So telling the story of that music makes the music even better. I think you have to tell some kind of a story.
That's right.
For each piece you play.
I understand.
And our story's coming close to wrapping. What I'm going to talk
Before
about
we
before
freeze
we
it.
wrap it, talk about the orchestra, the Gilded Age Orchestra that's affiliated with the
Yes.
Historic Music of Newport. Did I get that right? I think I'm
I think he was reading my shirt. The Gilded Age Orchestra of Newport was founded by, there are three of us, the three original board members of the nonprofit, myself, Anthony DeLuca, who's local, he's a clarinet player,
Right.
and also Chris Brelix, who's the dean of, I always get this bad, SUNY Schenectady. I'm sorry, Chris, if you're listening to this.
That
I missed
sounds
the
right.
school.
Yeah.
They were in the original TV show, the first season of the Gilded Age, performing in the show.
Cool. As musicians.
As musicians,
Right. Okay.
Anthony and a bunch of Rhode Island local musicians, Rhode Island, Boston, played at the Breakers in the last episode, and Chris conducted the Boston Symphony as an actual living composer at the time, whose name escapes me right now. I should know
Wow.
this.
Amazing.
But Chris is also a doctoral classmate of mine from Rutgers, and neither one of us was on a path to do something like this back then. He was a saxophone performance major, and I was a wind conducting major. The
Yeah, I
three
can
of
see
us,
that direct line to
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
the three of us decided, working with the Preservation Society, who thought this would be kind of cool. We put a group together, which at that point still had members of the TV show in it. And we did a little concert at the Breakers, and it was incredible.
Right.
So we decided we need to do more of this. So we've done a couple concerts a year, primarily at Rosecliff, because the Preservation Society is a good benefactor. They're a very good collaborator with my nonprofit, because they want to know what happened there as well. So we also did a big concert for this guy, community band directors, J. William Middendorf II, who just passed away at the age of 101.
Wow.
He was Richard Nixon's Secretary of the Navy, as well as
That's what it name rings
the
a bell.
ambassador to the Netherlands.
Uh-huh.
Huge philanthropist, worked in public service from Eisenhower-ish, past Carter, worked with people in
Wow.
administration.
Mhm.
Also was a composer. And he wrote something like 30 marches. I have a few of them that we've done. A Medal of Honor march that he wrote for musicians, which is really good.
Uh-huh.
We have that up on our YouTube channel. But also there's a march that was written for the ship that's being built, an Arleigh Burke class destroyer, the J. William Middendorf II, which will be completed, I think, next year in Bath, Maine. He wrote a march for that. But he also wrote opera, symphonies. The amount of music he wrote is staggering. So there's a composer, and it's not your typical march. They're different. And a lot of them are in sharp keys, so good luck sometimes. But they're really good marches. There's a Battle of Midway march, which is another one we've done, which is really cool. He wrote a Naval War College march So there's a composer that I really encourage people to look up. And again, he just passed away within the last few weeks at the age of 101.
Amazing.
He just had his 101st birthday last month.
So back in 2019, when you were just getting going with this, you came over and guest conducted the Jamestown Community Band and premiered. I think it was the first performance of that, or maybe the second.
There was one of the artillery
Right.
artillery march.
Right, exactly.
Yes,
And you
which is a good one.
followed a guy who was 99 at that point and is still going and golfing. I'm supposed to golf with him next week. He's 105, and Arthur Medeiros. And it's terrific. So some of those guys kept the greatest generation.
Yeah.
They just keep going, and he's not going to stop. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so we always ask 3 questions at the end of this, of the same 3 or 4 questions,
Right.
depending on what it is.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to ask the first one? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Fire
Okay.
away.
Do you have $50 I can borrow?
No, that's not it.
I'm a musician and I run a nonprofit. I think you know the answer to that
Oh,
one.
okay.
Recently married, too, so
Yes.
now even less.
What was your most memorable experience with a community music ensemble?
Wow. That's, as a player, as a conductor, just as
You could choose
anything?
that, but
You
I
can
think I
choose,
prefer.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I prefer that you as a kid, because obviously you were inspired to continue doing this.
As a kid, I used to play in what's now called the Newport Community Band at Salve Regina University, which was, I just think, called the Newport Community Band back there. And this was freshman college, excuse me.
And
freshman
tuba,
college.
right?
Tuba, yeah.
Yeah.
I was not a tuba player until I went to college, so I came home, and Pete Davis, who still teaches at Salve, and he still conducts the band, invited me to play with them in the summer. And the band back then was small and good, but there were some like old circus band musicians,
Right.
and some of the
Oh, yeah.
people. It was just such an incredible experience playing with those people.
Yeah.
That was my first real experience with a community band, and I played with them off and on. I played with them this year. It's the first time I played in years, probably 5 or 6 years. I played with them again this summer. They had an emergency need for a tuba player, and every time I go and play with them, it makes me remember the days 30 something years ago when I first started playing with this band. And it's a different band now. It's a lot of younger people. So there aren't the old circus guys are all gone at this point. But that experience to me was incredible. Just getting to do that.
Neat. We can skip to number 3. Is what was a big challenge with a community ensemble that you found an answer to along the way?
That's a good one. It's also
Let
a
me
tough
hold the
one.
paper up in front
No,
of
we
everybody.
got-
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's a tough one.
Apologize.
I've only really conducted one community band.
Ah, okay. The southeast.
Seacoast Wind Ensemble.
Seacoast
And I've
Wind.
been with them. This is my 10th. I'm just finishing up my 10th year with them.
Driving through Boston to get there.
Well, when I first started there, I was teaching at Plymouth State.
Right.
And it was an hour and 45 minutes to get to Kittery. Now it's only 2 hours, so it's not, unless Boston is Boston, then it's 5 hours. But I go up early in the day.
Right.
So this is the only community band I've ever conducted.
I thought there were more. Okay.
No, and I saw an ad for it, and I thought, I'll try this, figuring that they're not going to hire me. And I've been with them for 10 years. So to me, I think the most challenging part was doing it.
Just being there.
Just giving myself community bands scared me back then.
Right.
Yeah, I was used to college students were community bands, like they come and go whenever they feel like it, which is not a bad thing because we're all adults.
But you have to get used to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need more flexibility.
And I think it works. And to me, so the greatest challenge to me was just doing it. And 10 years later, I love it. And I love working with this group. So.
I find that up and down, like the scary, the dress rehearsal that doesn't go well.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and
right.
it's not because of, it's not
Aren't they all supposed to not go well?
It's
Isn't
not
that the-
superstition. It's that everyone gets so scared.
Yeah.
We just brought that up in the last episode, I think. But
I also tell them there are good rehearsals and there are bad rehearsals.
Yeah.
And I just had a discussion with someone the other night at rehearsal that they're like, what? They're asking me, and I always want people to talk to me. I always want them to be open with me, honest with me. If they have a critique of me conducting, I hope they can tell me. Because I'm not that kind of person to take anything personally. Because I know at 52, I still need to get better. I still need to do all this. She's like, why did you let things go? Because sometimes you're not going to win the battle. Sometimes, you guys
Right.
both know, as intonation, sometimes you just got to let it go.
Yeah. It's
And
sweet. Yeah.
the next week it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And she said that makes sense. I mean, sometimes you get the sense that you're not going to win the battle that night. Yeah, I've tuned them twice, and we're struggling,
Yeah.
but we're doing everything else right. So I'm not going to bring the band down by hammering away at something like
Right.
that. And 2, next week will be fine.
Yeah.
We could do a whole episode on tuning
gonna
because
say-
everyone has
Yeah.
on their phone a tuner now,
Yeah.
as opposed to in the past.
And there's that 80-year-old trumpet player
Yeah.
who no longer has any armature.
I won't mention the name. I had a colleague who required their students in the job years ago, required her students to have their tuners out and on the music stand. And I finally, no. She's like, but they're always in tune. I'm like, yeah, they're always in tune. The rest of the band is kind of doing this around them because it does change.
Yes,
She's like,
it does.
Yeah,
So
it does.
your students are doing this. The rest of the band's just doing that. So who's out of tune? And she goes, oh yeah, I guess that's true. I'm like,
Yeah,
"So
it's like that kid who has perfect pitch, who
Yeah.
goes crazy
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's never that.
Heat changes it, cold
Can't be.
changes, everything changes it. So
Okay, one last one.
All right, well, maybe a quick thought on it. What's the future of community music ensembles?
I think it's a bright future. Community bands have been around forever. Town bands were the foundation of music. And with things like the Association of Concert Bands, the other one, National Band Association,
Right.
even, it's not MENC anymore. What's it called?
That's okay.
But
Rimia,
all those
we can edit
organizations,
all that out, yeah.
I think really, yeah, please do edit that out. All these organizations, I think, promote this, especially ACB is huge, and National Band Association,
Right.
really encourage in these conferences that they have. I went to an ACB conference in New Jersey. The future is incredible because more and more older people want to play again. I have people come to concerts, I really want to play, so we should start here, and we'll work on that. But they really, everyone played an instrument growing up, and a lot of them want to do it now because it's a good release. So I think the future is incredible. There'll be, town bands aren't going anywhere. Town bands will be around, I think, forever. And, from the small town band of 20 people to like the American band of 70, 80 people, they draw crowds, and people love to hear them. When we do concerts here, we get well over 100, almost 150 something. I think once we had almost 200 people just come. Some people, I heard a band.
Yeah.
Just walking up the street, and they just come in and sit.
And they came toward you,
Yes,
as
they
opposed
didn't
to
run.
the other way around.
So I think the future is incredible because I think it's just going to get better and more bands. There can't be enough community bands, I don't think.
There you go.
I suppose there could be.
And
Beautiful.
well, instrumental ensembles, because we're touching on, you have the orchestra going here now
Yep.
too, and why not? And it does seem to be growing, particularly after COVID. That
Yeah.
really challenged some things. A few
Oh,
went
yeah.
away, unfortunately, but some new ones popped up. So it has a way of rebuilding itself, which is great. Thank you so much for doing
Thank you
this,
both.
Mark.
Thank you both for
Appreciate
having me.
this.
It's good to see you both
Great,
again.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Sorry,
this
it
lovely,
wasn't warmer.
Warm afternoon. Yes, it is
I
a
think
lovely
it really
fall
is
day.
going to snow. I'm pretty
Hey,
sure.
Like I said, we did the one concert in June. It was actually colder than this,
Yeah.
so we should be lucky.
But we always end with the same thing. You're welcome to join in if you
Yeah.
can. You just keep playing.
All right, I like